The chemistry that made people question if acting was ever the plan. Intro. When something feels too natural, some connections feel rehearsed. You can see the effort in them, the timing, the pauses, the intention behind every move. And then there are connections that feel effortless. So natural that people don't ask how it was created. They ask why it feels so real. That's where the story of Freen and Becky lives. From the very beginning, their chemistry didn't announce itself loudly. It didn't demand attention. It didn't try to prove anything. Instead, it existed quietly, in the way their energy aligned, in the ease of their presence together, in the calm that followed when they shared a space. It was the kind of chemistry that didn't feel like a performance. And slowly, without anyone meaning to, it made people wonder, was acting ever the plan? Or was this something that simply happened? Before the cameras found them, before the scripts, before the schedules, before the expectations, they were just two people stepping into something new. They didn't arrive with a strategy for chemistry. They didn't force closeness. They didn't overthink how to connect. What happened instead was something simpler: recognition. Not the dramatic kind, quiet kind, the kind where conversation flows without effort, where silence doesn't need filling, where being near someone doesn't drain you, it steadies you. People who worked around them noticed it early. Not in obvious ways, but in subtle patterns. They gravitated toward each other naturally. They checked in on each other without prompting. They shared space easily without tension or performance. Nothing about it felt staged. And that's what made it noticeable. When chemistry shows up between the lines. On screen, chemistry is often loud. It's built through intense moments, dramatic dialogue, carefully crafted scenes. But with Freen and Becky, the strongest chemistry didn't always live in the big moments. It lived between them, in pauses, in shared reactions, in moments that weren't meant to be the focus. Sometimes it was the way Freen would instinctively slow her pace to match Becky's. Sometimes it was how Becky's expression softened the moment Freen entered a scene. Sometimes it was nothing more than a glance that lingered half a second longer than expected. Viewers felt it even when they couldn't explain it. Because chemistry like that doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself. The OFF camera continuation. What truly made people question everything wasn't just what happened on screen. It was what continued when the cameras weren't meant to be watching. Behind-the-scenes clips told a consistent story. The same ease. The same comfort. The same unspoken awareness of each other. There was no switch flipping on or off. No visible shift between acting and not acting. They didn't become different people once the scene ended. And that consistency is rare. Because when chemistry is only performance-based, it disappears when the role does. But when it's rooted in genuine connection, it lingers. Quietly, naturally, without effort. Why people started questioning the intention. At some point, fans stopped asking how good their acting was. They started asking, why does this feel so unguarded? Why does it look like they forget where the cameras are? Why does it seem like they don't have to try? The question wasn't accusatory. It wasn't invasive. It was curious. Because when two people interact with that level of ease, it challenges the idea that chemistry must be manufactured. It raises the possibility that maybe the connection came first, and the acting followed. When professionalism looks like something more, this is where things became complicated, not for them but for everyone watching. They never crossed lines. They never broke professionalism. They never blurred boundaries publicly. But they also never erased the connection. And that balance confused people. Because society often expects distance to prove professionalism. But Freen and Becky showed something different. That respect can coexist with closeness. That comfort doesn't require explanation. That boundaries don't mean coldness. They work together like people who trusted each other deeply. And trust, when visible, often gets mistaken for something else. The silence that made it louder. What intensified the discussion wasn't what they said. It was what they didn't. They didn't over-explain. They didn't perform reassurance. They didn't correct every assumption. They simply continued being consistent. And consistency is powerful. When people expect chemistry to fade, and it doesn't. When they expect distance, and instead see calm closeness. When they expect effort, and instead see ease. Questions naturally follow. Not because something is wrong, but because something feels real. Why this chemistry stuck with people? Many pairings come and go. Many performances impress. Many connections trend and fade. But this one stayed. Because it didn't rely on intensity. It relied on presence. Felt grounded. Felt mutual. Felt safe. And most importantly, it felt human. People didn't fall in love with a fantasy. They resonated with familiarity. The kind of connection that mirrors real life, where love and care show up quietly, consistently without spectacle. The question that never needed an answer. In the end, the question wasn't really, was acting ever the plan? The real question was, why does this connection feel so honest? And maybe the answer is simple. Sometimes two people meet at the right time in the right space with the right openness. Sometimes chemistry isn't created, it's discovered. Sometimes acting doesn't generate connection. Connection enhances acting. And sometimes, what we're witnessing isn't a story being performed, but one being shared, quietly, naturally, without explanation.